As far as what we should be doing as females, what do you think are three things that we should be doing as females to kind of step out of our comfort zone and kind of redefine ourselves? What should we be doing?
I would say step one, acknowledge that you're in your comfort zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like acknowledge that you're in a bubble. And what's I think really important is the comfort zone is not always comfortable. So when I was working in my corporate career, I was not comfortable. I was not happy, but I was safe. And it wasn't until I was willing to acknowledge that that safety was what was keeping me there.
Got it.
But that safety was also a false sense of safety. And I had to acknowledge that I was there and in this little bubble that I was afraid to get out of. So once I defined what that zone looked like, I was then able to be like, well, what would it look like to get out of this?
Got it.
What's the first step? So for me personally, so after my breakdown, my emotional awakening, if we want to use Brene Brown language, after my spiritual awakening,
Yeah.
I enrolled in a coaching program.
Okay.
And as much as I wanted to quit my job, like before my coaching program even started, money for me was the biggest mental limitation and limiting beliefs that I had to personally work through. So I was like, I can stay in my corporate career. So it was a step out by enrolling in the coaching program and like taking steps to get me to where I wanted to go while still having a foot in the zone.
Got it.
So it's like, figure out for you personally, like what's your zone and what are the first baby steps you can do to get you out of it. Yeah. Whether that's researching a program, leaving a relationship. Some people might have to do it cold turkey. Others can like start to branch out.
Yeah.
Know your values and know your values, like not the values that you think you should have. Actually take time to understand like what is most important to me. What are my non-negotiables? And taking little steps to start prioritizing those non-negotiables isn't usually enough to also start to get you out of your comfort zone.
When you say that, what is obviously someone can just like sit down and figure that out, but what are the steps to even figure out what your like non-negotiables are? Can you give maybe an example of what that is? And then, do they just sit down and write a list? What does this look like?
So there's a bunch of different resources out there. I actually have one. I have a values assessment on my website that people can just go download for free.
At this website?
At consciouscoaching.com. Yep.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
That one.
Yes.
Like, which way is my hand going?
Yes.
The process that I like people to follow is there's like a list of 100 words.
Okay.
Not 100. There's just a big list of words that are typical values for people.
Okay.
Step one is circle any word that feels good to you.
Okay.
Step one, just circle anything that feels good to you. Then there's 4 criteria that will help you start to cross out words. And the thing I always like to tell people is whatever, just because you cross out something doesn't make you a bad person. So if you cross out, so the 4 criteria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't make you a bad person.
Okay,
so the 4 criteria are, does this value define me at my best?
Okay.
Does this value bring me a sense of joy and relief? I'm blanking on the third one. And the last one is, would I be willing to the third one is, would I prioritize this value when making hard decisions?
Okay.
And then, will I prioritize this over all other values?
Wow. Okay.
So you start crossing off values. And the goal is to get between 2 and 5. And the example I like to give is family. Okay. A lot of people value family.
Yeah.
But I value my family too. But as you heard in my story, I did not always make the best decisions, and I was not always my best self when I let my family's opinions influence me.
Got it.
So for me, when I first did this, I circled family. I'm like, well, why do I value family? I value trust and honesty.
Okay.
So I crossed off family and left trust and honesty,
Beautiful.
because then I was able, like, if I have somebody in my family who crosses trust and honesty, then I can choose trust and honesty over that family member.
Beautiful. Wow.
So
Absolutely.
so those are examples. I ended up personally landing on freedom and connection. So I
Wow.
used freedom and connection to make every decision in my life. And even
Absolutely.
using the family as an example, when I just moved from Philadelphia to Oregon. So I drove across the country, and Pittsburgh is a good first stop for that first night. Like, I worked all day. Pittsburgh is a good stop. My brother lives in Pittsburgh. My brother and I don't always see eye to eye. I'm not always my best self when I'm like planning stuff with my brother. That we all know why, based on the story I shared earlier.
Yes, yes.
My mom was giving me a lot of grief about, like, why don't you stay with David? Why don't you stay with David? I'm like, well, David's not responding to me. David's not giving me clear answers. So I was like, you know what? Freedom. I'm going to book a hotel room.
Yeah.
That's 45 minutes away from him.
Yeah.
More on my path. If he wants to come see me, he can come see me. But freedom and connection, like freedom. And I was by myself with the dog. So I'm like, I want the freedom to wake up whenever I wake up and keep driving.
Yeah.
I want the freedom to show up whenever I want and not have to worry about, like, keeping my brother or his wife awake. Like,
Yeah.
so I used my values.
Yes.
And my brother, he did come down and hang out with me for a little bit. So
Yes.
I still got to see him, but it was on my terms.
Yes. Oh, that's great. That whole story is so, it gives me a feeling of being free,
Mm-hmm.
and light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I
Wow.
coach to, is helping people identify those values,
Okay.
and then B, having the confidence to prioritize them.
Fantastic. So
Because
if somebody wanted to do this thing that you just talked about, they can just take it for free on your website?
Yep. Yeah. So if you go to conchicoaching.com, there's a drop down for resources.
Okay.
It's one of the resources.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is so awesome. I could see how that would be so helpful in so many decision making every day.
Every day. Every day. And I think what's also really important is typically what people land on the first time
Yeah.
is maybe one of the words will stick with them long term. There's a few renditions. So if you tend to be a perfectionist and overthink things, don't overthink it. Just go with your gut, what feels good. Don't take, like, this is your list. Because I think that's something that a lot of women struggle with, is like the fear of what other people are going to think.
Yeah.
So if you go and download this resource, just remember, like, this is for you. It doesn't matter what other people think. And the moment you can let that go, it's like everything opens up for you.
Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
As far as, your life and the journey that you've been on, what are some lessons that you think, people can learn from your life, from your journey?
It's so funny because I'm like, oh, I don't know. Let's go with know your values.
There you go. Okay.
Know your values. I did not know my values. I thought my values were like financial success, and I don't even remember where I landed the first time, but I would have probably said like family, financial success, like external things that I couldn't control, fear-based things. So, like, start to go into your core. Start to truly understand, like, who you are, what makes you tick, what brings you joy.
I kind of like that you're saying that you can't control family.
You can't.
Yeah, but like people don't necessarily associate that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. Like I've never really thought of, I mean, I don't have issues with that, but that would be something that people would value and then want to control, but you literally can't do that.
You can't do that.
Yes.
You can hope for the best. You
But we
can,
put a lot of emphasis on that though,
uh-huh, totally.
trying to navigate it and make it go a certain way, and it never does.
Never does. So like family gatherings,
Wow.
it's like you come in with one expectation,
Yeah.
they come in with another expectation. That's typically where, bringing it back to energy leadership, that's where frustration and resentment, catabolic energy comes back in. It's when people come in with these stealth expectations of like case in point of why can't we just have a normal holiday? Why can't we just have a, functioning family? Why can't my kids act like the other kids?
Yeah.
Why can't, the moment you're saying why can't, there is a stealth expectation that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything external is probably should not be a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Because you can't control that. You can
Yeah.
only control you and your next step and how you react to things.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, and the holidays, and people right now are with their family. How does one supposed to navigate that? Just coming to this realization, like, oh my gosh, I can't control my family. I was expecting this to go different.
Mhm.
My parents are still here for another 2 days.
Yeah.
What do you just relinquish the control? What do
Totally.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
First is the awareness of the situation, awareness that there might be expectations, somebody's not living up to the expectations, awareness that something's not jiving. Then it's acceptance. I accept that this is the situation. I fully accept. So parents, right? Like my parents are gonna, I really hope they're not watching this. I love my parents. Actually, I'll see them next week. But they're going to come here in April for 2 weeks. That's a lot of together time.
Yeah.
There are things that we all do that drive the other ones crazy.
Yeah.
And it's acceptance rather than fighting it. So like, and my dad knows this, like he breathes really loudly and it drives me nuts. It's like, dude, like close the mouth, like quiet breaths. We don't need to like we're not Darth Vader here.
Oh, that's so funny.
Used to irk me. And I'm like, that's just who he is.
Yeah.
So the moment we can accept the situation or accept somebody else or accept ourselves is the moment we can start making conscious choices about what we want to do about it.
100.
Yeah. So it's like if you are all of a sudden like, oh my God, my parents are here for 2 more days. I can't handle this. What's the this? Accept the this.
Got it.
And then choose what, like, does that mean, you know what? I need to take a 30-minute break and go for a walk. I need to do this. Like maybe I need to send them out and like we just need separate space. Like
Yeah.
the moment you can accept it,
Send them on a milk run.
send them on a milk run.
For doing a barbecue, we need some charcoal.
Yeah. Never mind that there's a foot of snow on the ground. Like can you go shovel out the fire pit so we can like.
That's great.
But the moment you accept, you shift into a higher energy level, which allows you to think of more opportunity, more solutions, more. Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, acceptance, which is so hard because our families are our biggest triggers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, obviously we've learned a lot already. We've found out that you do coaching. So what do you do? Tell us what you do. What's your expertise? What's your business? What do you do for the humans? What do you do for the humans?
All the things.
Yeah.
What's really funny? So mindset and energy leadership coach, which you introduced earlier, really passionate about empowering women, small business owners, and executives to break free of the limitations that are holding them back from reaching their full potential and achieving success on their terms. And I absolutely love it. And that might sound super vague, and it's kind of because it is, because I take such a unique approach with all of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they come to me with one goal, and then I take a ton of time helping them understand, why is that their goal? What does success actually look like to them, whether it's for the specific goal or something else? And then we go into all the really deep work. And then usually halfway through coaching, they're like, wow, that's not my goal at all. I actually want to do this thing. I'm like, yeah, because that thing's aligned with your values.
Yeah. Wow.
But what's really interesting about coaching, when you partner with a certified coach,
Mm-hmm.
Coaches hold a safe space for you to find your own answers. So a lot of times we're like, I need your advice. I'm like, I don't actually give advice. Like, I educate, I explain energy leadership, I provide insight, I listen to your word vomit and connect dots for you. But all of your answers lie within you.
Yeah.
So I'm a full believer that, like, my clients have all the answers. They know what's best for them. And I am here to provide a safe space every week to talk through what's going on, help them figure out their own stuff, create an action plan forward. I use the success formula, which is awareness plus strategy plus mindset equals success.
Yes.
And what's really interesting, and maybe it's just because I was good at math, the way we're taught to do math is like literally or down. So people think awareness is the first step. But the first step is really defining success. So I help people get really clear in what success means. So, like what we were talking about earlier, my whole life, I was burnt out because I was chasing my dad's definition of success.
Got it.
I was chasing the definition of success that was out of my control. I can't control how much money I make. I can't control having boatloads of money. We have realized this a few times over with the market crash in 2008, the recent crash in, I don't know if it was officially a crash, but like the dip in 2020 with the COVID. And we can't control any of that.
Yeah.
The only thing we can control is our happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So what does success look like if it's not tied to an outcome?
Yeah.
Because success is something that we can live right here in the moment and set goals to help us continue to get those emotions and those feelings our entire life.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that with my clients, like helping them get clear. We look at self-sabotaging behaviors, we look at strengths, and then we come up with strategies to minimize the sabotaging behaviors, leverage our strengths. And yeah, I know I'm privileged to be in the position that I'm in to have this job. And I'm really fortunate that I had that spiritual awakening to lead me here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so grateful that, like, I'm in the position that I can help people.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's awesome. I want to ask a question as far as, the main people that, watch her version, the audience is predominantly female.
Mm-hmm.
And, the journey that you've been on, I'm sure can relate to so many people. And I'd like to just kind of ask your advice as far as, what you would tell females who are feeling kind of like a never ending sense of chaos, no passion. What would be some advice that, because they're everywhere, we're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What would be some advice you'd give to that female?
To stop.
Oh,
To stop. If you're in this like rush, and we live in a hustle economy, we live in a world of chaos.
Yeah.
My advice is to stop, slow down. And that can be really, really uncomfortable for people, because stopping, especially for high achievers, which are a lot of the women that I work with.
Yeah.
We have been taught that stopping or quitting is stagnation, it's giving up. But when you stop purposefully and intentionally and use the time to figure out what's going on and why you feel empty and the source of everything,
Yeah.
it's not stagnation, it's an investment in your future. So if you can just stop long enough to just figure out like, why do I feel like I'm keeping up with the Joneses?
Okay.
And then once you stop, it's like, well, where do I go next? Take time to identify your core values. Take time to create a joy list, because a lot of times if you're in that never-ending chaos and don't have passion and you're burnt out, you've likely forgotten who you are, the things that make you happy, and you don't have even if you know what makes you happy, you're overcomplicating it and you don't have the energy to do it.
Absolutely.
If you make a joy list, I always recommend people try for 100 things, because the first 20 are easy. The first 20 are always in some way, shape, or form. Traveling, which I can't do right now because of COVID. Eating out with my friends, which I can't do right now because of COVID. Blah, which I can't. Like, cool. Get to number 50. Get to number 75. Get to number 100. And you're like, I really like sitting and drinking a cup of tea, but not just any cup of tea. I really like, okay, I'm drinking hot cocoa right now, but I really like hot cocoa out of this big mug because it's nice and cozy. So you can start to introduce joy in such baby steps.
Yeah.
And the moment you know your values and have your joy list, the third thing is start prioritizing yourself.
Okay.
And you can do that by every morning that you wake up. You can just ask yourself, what is one thing I can do for me today?
Absolutely.
For some people, that could be sit in the closet for 5 minutes and avoid my husband and children.
Yes.
That's fine.
That would be a thing. Yes.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
With somebody else, it could be go for a 10-mile run or go for a hike. Like, it could be baking cookies. Like, I don't care what it is. What is one thing I can do for me today? It could be focusing on your work and knocking out your to-do list, because that would reduce your stress and anxiety. Great. But you're doing it for you. You're not doing it because it's hanging over your head.
Exactly.
The moment you make the choice, your energy shifts.
Exactly. Very awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any that you would add to that?
Oh, snap. No, I think that is perfect. I think that is absolutely perfect.
I think the stopping, like, what came up for you when I said, like, stop?
That I need to stop more. You know what, though? Honestly, I absolutely love what I do. I'm in the same position as you are. Went through the whole crappy boss and shitty job and found myself here in the coaching field. But with that being said, stopping, because sometimes we are, even, I don't mean to project, sometimes even in a position of joy, of loving what I do sometimes forget to take time just for me. Coaching in itself is a lot of giving. It's a lot of listening. And sometimes there are times when I should be stopping and smelling the roses a little bit more than I possibly am. And I think that is a constant juggling act that a lot of females, coaching or not, doing something that you love or not, needs to do, and being authentic to what that means for you. Because there will be people in your life that tell you to slow down, even if you don't need to slow down.
Yeah.
So I think that, everyone's work ethic is different. Everybody's mindset is different. And I think that it's really important to, you and I were talking early on about the holidays. And, I was telling you, that I had to make a decision when I left my religion as far as what I was going to do with the holidays, whether I was going to continue or not continue. And that was that was something I had to sit on, and I had to authentically think to myself, what do I actually want to do? Like authentically. And I think that's something that what you said, stop and think what's authentic. What do you actually want to be doing right now?
What do I actually want? Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like
So
what's my next best step? Like, I don't care what other people think. What's right for me?
Exactly. So if individuals watching right now live, individuals that are going to be watching on the replay, if they wanted to find out more, obviously they can go to your website.
Yep.
But social media, where are you mostly at?
So I am most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. If you message me on Facebook, I will not respond. So if you so don't hit me up on Facebook. I only have an account so I can have a business thing on Instagram. So Instagram at Conchi Coaching, which is the same spelling as my website. For LinkedIn, you can just search for my name, Jenn Masse, and a bunch of coaching letters after it.
Perfect. So is this you?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So for more information, websites, if you want to follow, Insta, I so appreciate everything. This was fantastic. So much insight on something that we all deal with on like multiple levels.
Yeah.
On multiple levels. I think that so many of us in general have that expectation of like trying to do all the things for all the people, especially our parents. And I so appreciate you coming on here and reminding us to stop, and to think.
Yeah. And if you feel like you have these expectations, like needing to, like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I like, ask yourself why, whether it's a high expectation for yourself, whether how you perform in your job or how you show up to other people, ask yourself what's driving that. Because if it's giving you a sense of ickiness and stress, it's probably a fear-based value. So just ask yourself why. Like, why do I have this expectation, and what would change if I let go of it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Because we all, like you said, especially women, struggle with this. Because from a young age, we were taught, like, be quiet, look perfect, like, portray a certain image. And we now have to make the choice to break free of that.
Exactly. Well, listen, this was absolutely fantastic. Do you have any closing thoughts? That was kind of closing thoughts, but do you have any closing thoughts before I close up?
I feel like what I just shared was probably like spot on.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you so much for having me, because this was amazing. First of all, I love your podcast and I love your platform because it gives people like me a chance to share my story and get it out there. But also, like you said, like for listeners, it is so empowering to know that we're not alone.
Yes.
If when I kind of made my transition, I feel like I never really embraced the podcast world. So I didn't know that there were other people like me. Yeah. I didn't know that there were other people going through the same thing. And it wasn't until I started my business and became active on Instagram that I found a whole new support network.
Yeah.
People who followed a similar journey. So thank you for giving people a platform to be seen and heard, because it is so powerful.
Of course. Thank you. And it's women like you who are willing to share your story that's making it possible. So I appreciate you, and the audience that follows, and the audience that's slowly growing organically. I'm loving. So thank you also to you. For those of you watching live now, I so appreciate your support and your love. For those of you watching on the replay, please hashtag replay so that we know that you are here and that you are watching and that you are supporting us. I am going to close up. So thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at heraversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others do something awesome today. Much love.